Welcome back to the NFL Draft Fan Experience live from Las Vegas. Yesterday I called it not only a fan festival but a family reunion, and Michael and I were just arguing like somebody reneged at spades at the family barbecue. I was at a family barbecue.
You owe me money.
You know, let's talk to somebody who knows what he's talking about, because Eric Edholm,
wow,
really did a fantastic job with the first round.
This is great.
I mean, even if he didn't get people in the exact right spots, like in the case of Evan Neal, he had him at 5 instead of 7, but to the right team. Okay?
Yeah, Drake London going to the Falcons.
He had Drake London to the Falcons. He had Gary Wilson to the Jets, and on and it goes on and on. Like, he really did a phenomenal job when it comes to these mock drafts. Even Chris Olave, he had Chris Olave 16 to the Saints, but they moved up to 11 to get him.
Wow.
You know, I mean, you can't factor in trades, but Eric
That's
Edholm
great.
really clearly was plugged in when it came to who teams were targeting. Where they got them, obviously things changed, but props on a really accurate, and that's tough to do, in one of the most unpredictable drafts we've seen in recent memory. Having said all that, I'm not going to lead the witness with the one we just argued about. What was the one that even caught you by surprise, Eric?
So do I dare not go into Cole Strange territory? Boy, I don't know what I walked into, what kind of buzzsaw you guys had there. But, yeah, I mean, I think it was probably the pick that wasn't made, Malik Willis. You know, I mean, I hadn't really – it's not as if people around the league universally loved him or that every team had, you know, high grades on him. That almost certainly wasn't the case. But I still thought there was going to be a path to get him in the first round. If there was one of the two that I didn't know about, it was Kenny Pickett. I wasn't 100% sure that the Steelers were going to, you know, pluck the guy who essentially is attached to their facility. I love the Tomlin quote. We went around the world and ended up back at home to get our QB. But yeah, I think that was probably my biggest surprise outside of UT Chattanooga.
So keep going on that. Just tell us
Yeah.
just tell us your analysis. I'm not going to get into it, but your analysis of Cole Strange, the pick, and just how it all unfolded for the Patriots.
What an unfortunate last name, by the way, for this circumstance.
Yeah, Cole going.
I mean, I feel sorry for the kid.
Going from 21, the Patriots went from 21 to 29, and then they picked Strange. Just how did you see that whole thing unfolding?
Yeah, I mean, the trade down was as predictable as anything, right? It just sort of felt like in a draft where, you know, a slew of prospects all kind of had similar grades, or you felt like you could get the same value at 21 as you could at the bottom of round one. That part of it was typical Patriots behavior right there. Now, Michael, I've read your book. I know all about the draft room ins and outs, and you know, it's obviously a fascinating look behind the curtains there. As you know, they have a small draft board. You know, some teams go in with, you know, I remember one team told me that they had 98 players one year on their board. So, you know, I don't know what the number was in New England. I don't know if Cole Strange was the top guy available. I think once Kenyon Green and Zion Johnson, I think Johnson was definitely a guy they had to look at. Had all the same, you know, qualities that Strange did. He just played at a higher level after transferring from Davidson. I suspect they were just kind of locked in. All right, we got a starting guard who can one day play center. And, you know, there was only a handful of prospects left on the board total who fit that mold. So, yeah, I mean, that's my best guess on that. I think you could have had him at 54, but again, you don't know that for sure. I think there were probably some teams that, you know, saw how we competed at the Senior Bowl and said, all right, we give him a chance in the middle of the second round. So it's all speculation. It's really hard. I've tried to call in and figure out from the college angle and also the NFL angle, and haven't been able to get the details on that.
Spinning it forward to tonight, who do you love that's still on the board? We were talking earlier, like round two, it has a negative connotation to people who don't understand the ins and outs of the draft. It really should be round 1B, given the caliber of talent. Like you mentioned, Malik Willis that's still available. Who do you love most that's available tonight in rounds 2 and 3, and really throughout the rest of the weekend? Some hidden gems.
Yeah, I think my top-rated player available is Andrew Booth. I had him as my 23rd, you know, best prospect, and you know, obviously Kaiir Elam and some of the other corners, you know, went above him and such. And it's not a stunner, right? I you know, if you told me on Thursday morning that he was going to slip into round 2, okay, I guess I could see that. So but he's a good prospect. I don't think he'll last more than 5 or 6 picks. My favorite player in terms of what I think they can do right away in the NFL is Breece Hall. I could see a team like the Texans being very interested in him. He's, to me, like Jonathan Taylor light. And I don't say that lightly. I mean, I really have a high regard for Jonathan Taylor, one of my favorite backs to scout. You know, not going to give you a ton in the receiving game, but he's extremely tough. He breaks tackles. He's got home run speed. So Breece Hall, to me, I think can do a lot. And we mentioned Willis. Obviously, he and Desmond Ridder are probably the 2 quarterbacks that, you know, have the most appeal at this point. You know, Corral's got some questions. He's got talent. Sam Howell, you know, took maybe a step back last year in some regards. So, you know, among the quarterbacks, those are the big ones. I'll throw one more at you, kind of back in you know, where you guys are from. Travis Jones at UConn. You know, playing on UConn, it must be tough, right? Because you get double teamed every single play. His tape this year was fine. It was okay. 2nd or 3rd round tape, it was okay. But watching him down at the Senior Bowl really kind of changed my impression of him. I thought, okay, this guy is good. He was killing people down there, including your favorite guard from UT Chattanooga. Really stressed him with power. So have to mention that one.
Hey, there are a couple of teams, most notably the Packers, who have 2 second-round picks, but you know, Chiefs as well. They also went defense, that did not address receiver, even though 6 went in the first 20. Can you tell us about the drop-off, if any, between the receivers who went in round 1 and those that are still available?
Yeah, I think talent-wise, you know, the one who stands out is George Pickens, and he, you know, he comes with some questions. There was some immaturity early in his career. You know, he had the little water bottle incident against Tennessee, and he had the fight against Georgia Tech that cost him, you know, the first half of the SEC title game. He had the injury that sidelined him most of last year. You know, he's kind of the one, in my opinion, who stands out talent-wise, but you know, teams have had to do their homework on him, make sure they're getting a good kid, and that, you know, there isn't any other problem that they're, you know, gonna have to face. And I think, you know, as long as you have a good, strong locker room, you've done your homework on him, you feel good about, you know, everything that's happened in the past. You know, I heard he wrote some letters to teams sort of explaining, you know, things that he'd done, little, you know, look, if I had to explain myself as a 21-year-old, I'd be in deep trouble, right? I don't think I'd have a job right now. So, you know, I think there are some cases where, you know, a guy grows up. And I heard the rehab too kind of humbled him a little bit. And, you know, he fought back and got out there for the playoff games. So he's obviously fascinating. I still like, you know, players like Sky Moore from Western Michigan, and Christian Watson, the kid from North Dakota State. So, you know, there's some really interesting players at that position. And I would guess that if the Packers and Chiefs feel good about Pickett's character, you know, we could see them maybe dueling out for him. And that's, you know, that's the kind of thing that, you know, we expected maybe in round 1 with the trades of Tyreek and Devontae Adams.
So I heard you refer to your ranking system. So how far do you go in your rankings? Do you rank each of the prospects? You rank them, all of them in the draft?
Yeah. And so obviously, you know, full disclosure, I can't watch 700 prospects. There's just no humanly way to do it. But, you know, and with, you know, everything else, the other duties I have. So I do lean on teams and some other, you know, scouting sources that I have to say, you know, I'd like to fill out the draft so that we get more players than are actually drafted on my rankings here. So most definitely there are players that I haven't been able to watch or watch much of in some cases. So, you know, it's unfortunately the nature of the beast, but I try to watch as many as I can. Cole Strange, I watched a couple games of, you know, and he was my number, I think, 91 prospect overall. I was a little lower on him than some people, but yeah, you just try to get in as much as you can. You rely on people who give you information that's trustworthy, and do your best. And sometimes you try to call the schools too and get their opinions as well, because they're the ones who saw him every day in the facility.
That's impressive. I like that. Let me ask you, what do you think the Jets, I'm fascinated with the Jets in their first round, just all their moves. Love all 3 players that they picked. What do they do for an encore? If you're the Jets, what would you do next? Because you still have another pick in the top 40. So what do you do?
Yeah, I think they could get an impact defensive player, maybe like a safety or perhaps a tackle. There's all this talk about Mekhi Becton maybe, you know, not being in good graces with the team. They've sort of kind of said that George Fant may have a starting job. And so obviously there's concern there, right? They got to figure that part out. You can draft all the receivers you want in the world, But if you don't have the pass protection, your 202-pound quarterback's going to get his tail whipped. So I think those are two areas that I could see them addressing. But once Stingley went off at 3, and I felt pretty good about that possibility. That's why I mocked it that way. My thinking was, if they want a top corner, they have to get him at 4. They can't wait till 10. That's how it played out. Sauce Gardner in New York. How about Sauce and Thibodeau in New York? How great is that, right? 2 big personalities, 2 big nicknames. I mean, I love it. So, but then for them to come back after missing out on Tyreek Hill, you get Wilson at 10. Sounds like they didn't make much of a reasonable offer for Debo. It sounds like they just said, why don't we just sit at 10 and get the player that we've been watching for months and really like? And I think that was a brilliant stroke. And then getting Jermaine Johnson too, just icing on the cake. Yeah. What a great Thursday night.
It was a great Thursday night, but just given the nature of this beast, and given that all these guys aren't going to work out, they're going to be picks that don't pan out, as much as we may love them based on projections and evaluations going into and coming out of the draft, which is why grading is so difficult right now.
Right.
The Jets' track record suggests that, it's like we talked about with Jacksonville, that they're going to mess it up. But I'm bringing this show today full circle, because there's a running theme in all the debates we've had today, Michael, whether it was agreeing on the credibility that the Ravens have,
right?
Whether it was the Packers and being contenders year in and year out, whether that's because of Aaron Rodgers or the complete team-building approach that they have, or even the Patriots, who I understand your frustration because their draft record, especially lately, has been spotty.
Right.
And that's putting it kindly.
Right.
So that's a long way of asking this question to you, Eric. Are there certain organizations, Baltimore, Kansas City, that you look at, and even if you do scratch your head at stuff that they do or don't do, you may default to, yeah, but they know what they're doing.
Right. Yeah, it's hard not to have biases, right? And obviously we make contacts around the league, and you almost get to the point where you consider them friends in some cases, right? But at the end of the day, you have to judge every pick in a vacuum and say, look, I realize that the Baltimore Ravens have a long history of success, but when they take, this second rounder that I don't like, I've got to call them out for it and risk pissing off the people that I try to call for information, right? That's happened before. You didn't like that, huh? Oh, okay, but you have to do it.
I thought you were a friend.
I know, yeah. I thought you were a guy, right? Yeah, exactly. And sometimes they'll freeze you out. That's the nature of the business. I've had it happen before. And look, I'm not gonna. It's hard not to get into that. Well, Belichick knows what he's doing. Oh, Eric DaCosta following Ozzie knows what he's doing, right? But I do like certain teams' approach. It probably follows my. I love what the Bills do. I feel like their draft record in recent years has just gotten better and better. And, there are some teams that just go against the grain and you say, okay, that's not what I would have done, but let's try to think. Yeah. Let me put myself in their head.
Yeah. Hey, last thing before we let you go.
Yeah.
And I'm praying that this comes to fruition. I saw your tweet about my favorite player in this draft. And given that Michael and I were at each other's throats about Cole Strange from UT Chattanooga, if you are correct and the Patriots take Matt Araiza at 54, oh, my God.
Oh, boy.
Monday is going to be so much fun.
He'd be just trolling us,
a man
right?
can only dream.
Oh, yeah.
I think it would be a brilliant pick.
I'm telling you.
You know how much I love the punt god?
I'm so tired of talking about this guy.
I love the punt god. I came here specifically. They were like, do y'all want to go to the draft? Yes. Do we get to talk about the punt god? I'm there. I am so in on this guy.
Oh, my goodness.
If you can kick it 80 yards and directionally kick, and you're lefty, big tip right there, and you kick field goals.
And you kick field goals. Yes.
Right.
Oh, my God.
He's made like
special teams
7 or 8
right
tackles the last couple of years. I mean, he's hit on plays like that. I mean, if there was ever a dream player, I'm just really sad he didn't go to Navy and play lacrosse in high school.
That's right. Well, we got to ask this. Since we were talking about rankings, where's he ranked? Where do you have him ranked? I'm just
Good question.
Where do you have him ranked?
Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. I closed that tab.
I'm telling you.
I think I had him at like 109.
Okay.
109.
I'll take him in the third round.
54 then.
I'll take him in the third
right.
round because I'm afraid somebody's going to get ahead of him. So I'll take him early.
You had a guy ranked 91st. They took him 29th. No problem. You got him ranked 109th. 54? Absolutely.
The math is mathing.
They'll do it.
That's it.
Eric, we appreciate you, man. Really great job. Thank you so much. And again, nice job on the mock.
I'm just glad I could bring you together. I'm just glad I could make you guys happy again. That's all I came here for.
No doubt, man. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Eric.
See ya.
Thank you for your mediation. We're going to send a check to you.
Oh, if they take a raisin.
A who?
If they take Matt a raisin?
Oh, no, they can't.
If they take Matt a raisin, are you taking Monday off?
But they could.
But if they do it, if they take him, are you taking Monday off?
I'm coming. I'll be here.
That would be so perfect. That would just be. That would be like, that would be better than when you said that Mac Jones is going to be the quarterback. That would be better if they took Matt. That would be.
I'm serious. I seriously don't put it past him. Hey, thanks for watching Brother from Another on YouTube. Make sure you hit subscribe before you leave, and be sure to watch us 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time on Peacock. Appreciate you.